5 by 5, and we are now live. All right, tonight on Gatekeepers, we will be talking about where does your DM go to get questions asked that he is questioning about. Maybe he's having issues with maybe the CR is too high, maybe the CR is too low, maybe somebody fucking threw Mythic into a game system that didn't need Mythic without balancing it out. Where does he go to figure these questions out? Now, this question was brought to us by our dear friend Shadow, so we are going to run with it tonight. And I hear an echo.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
It's always me. It's always me.
Now that we're back to
blame the boomer. I'm okay.
Yeah, we won't tell Travis. He is the boomer remover. Anyways, with that being said, Shadow, do you want to get this pig going?
All right. As game masters, we're supposed to be literally the masters. But there are, especially these days, absolutely untold number of pitfalls and roadblocks and obstacles we can come across at any time, at any table, with any group of people. Whether they're old friends, new people, like Connell, you're gaming at a store for a paycheck, and you never know who's going to walk in the door. You never know what kind of baggage they're going to bring in. How do you deal with your random problems when you're at a loss? When you are just totally stumped at what to do? I've narrowed it down to maybe four ways to look at it. Basically nouns, who, where, and what. And then, of course, feelings.
Well, feelings I've already taken care of because on the door I put, if you have thin skin, this might not be the game for you. And the people have been pretty cool with that one because they've been really cool about that one. The whole pronouns issue, non-issue, depends on how you look at it. I got one person who wants to be called they, and I'm fine with that. Is that whatever, they're paying.
They got a mouse in their pocket?
I keep wanting to ask them that question, but I don't. I assumed I let them. They wish I call them by their character's name. I don't call them by their name. I don't use a pronoun. I call them by their character's name. How are you doing today, blank? And it solves that issue.
It's a really weird character name.
It could be, or not. It's not. Anyways, so
yeah, jokes. You're gonna get them.
Right. So each of the people that comes to this table might be a different person every time I run, and that's fine. It's an open door game.
Oh, you didn't mean like they have multiple personality disorder?
No. Although that would make sense for at least two of the players, but that's besides the point. Now,
I mean, you can have that in a vampire game for a Malkavian, dissociative identity disorder.
We had that in
Malkavian.
We had that in 3.5 with the woman trapped in another woman's body, or soul, split souls in one body.
Yeah, that was a unique scenario.
So, but everybody brings their own luggage to said table, and it doesn't matter if you're being paid to do it or if you're gaming at home and running for your friends. So you just have to not accept that you're going to be dealing with other people's shit, but you have to understand that you might be dealing with other people's shit. And as long as you put a decent baseline of, hey, this is acceptable and this is not acceptable, it normally is copacetic. It normally, goes clear. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. So,
okay.
Do you guys want to go over some like really common questions, and issues that people could have?
Yeah, let's keep it. Yeah, let's start with the basics and work our way
up. Split it 50-50.
Yeah.
The first hour issues and then solutions.
However it works out, we'll make it work. Right. All right, I got a question for you two because both of you guys have been DMing longer than I have. You have an ideal world. Both of you two are world burners, builders, not burners.
I've burned a few worlds.
Yeah. Sorry. I
I've
just want to
confirmed
see.
at least one world.
So, with that being said,
Hundreds of worlds.
I don't know if you guys have
Nice.
caught last week's Shadow and Sun My show, but it was presented to me that me and Jack have to build a world. The homework. We're building our own particular world storyline, which is novel for me because I normally just run with whatever's in front of me. So my question is it like you start with your races, you start with your countries? How do you break it down? Where do you start with?
You start with a circle. I mean, literally a circle. Draw two hemispheres of how you as the astronaut god will look down on this planet. Draw the circles, draw the continents, draw some islands, etc. You can start naming things at this point, or you can zoom in and then make bigger, more detailed maps.
Okay.
Then going with a race or something like that isn't a bad idea. Normally, we would be thinking about a multicultural world with dwarves and elves and gnomes and hobbits and all that stuff. If that's what you're working on, if you're making a Dungeons and Dragons world, then you're probably going to do that. Now you may want to color code the continents. This is the elves, this is the orcs, lizard men, etc. Whatever you got. Or if it's a more integrated situation, you're probably going to start with the main continent and draw in your circular, little circles for the big cities, and then draw your mountains and forests and rivers and all that stuff around them, and maybe draw some geopolitical borders of these guys live here, those guys live there. Hold on just a second.
So I'm gonna start
Jump
by
in.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here. Man, so as far as world building goes, if you're asking me where to start world building at for yourself,
Yeah.
I'd say start with your concept first. Like, what is the concept of the game you're trying to run? Start there. Work in the macro, not the, work on the small scale, not necessarily the big scale immediately. Because at the end of the day, your players only need to have available to them what is within a day's walk, maybe 2 days walk. I do world build on the grand scale. Like, I know that my world has 3 moons and 2 of them orbit in one direction and the third orbits in a different direction. But are they actually moons, or are they other distant planets? I know that my players won't. So I don't necessarily get to my map first. I start with my concept. What is my core concept of the game I'm trying to run? For me, I'm currently working on Bronze Age game. So my concept is Bronze Era. You can only travel 20 miles in a day, roughly. So that's all I need to go out further. And because it also takes place in a very thick and overgrown jungle, travel is even more difficult. Not just the dangers of traveling, but also the dangers of wildlife and so on and so forth. So I don't necessarily need a world map. I am working on a world map, but I don't need it for my first session. Like I said, I start at the concept. Bronze Age, extremely high magic, words of power. The people know some of the very words of creation, and when spoken with intent, can do spectacular things. That is my concept. From there, I world build out. Well, what can you do with these, words of power? What do these people do with these words of power? Why do they live in such an age of bronze and magic? Why haven't they achieved iron? Why haven't they achieved, this, that, or the other thing? What's stopping them? Could it be that magic is stopping them? Because magic solves all their problems. Why would they need to, ironcraft? Why would they need to create machines when magic solves all their problems? Okay, well, if magic solves their problems, what happens on the day that magic stops working? that is my core concept. And from that, I continue to world build out. So I start with concept, then I go to my map.
All right. That for you,
I
that
tend to
makes
kind of
sense.
find it depending. It really depends for me on the actual game. If I'm playing Gamma World, which I'm working on right now, a lot of that is kind of already built into the game. If you guys are familiar with that game, you know, Earth went through some sort of Holocaust, and about hundreds of years later, humans, plants, and animals have mutated, and you got a whole bunch of weird stuff going on. So I will look at it from that first, because if I'm playing a Traveler game or Boot Hill or, you know, any sci-fi game, I have to zoom out even more so for that concept, because, you know, if you're playing like a Star Wars game, you know, you've got limitless worlds that you could be dropping in on in a game. You could be in a game and hit 6 different worlds in a game in, you know, a 4-hour stretch. If that's the, you know, the campaign, you're on a chase, following somebody, looking for something, that sort of thing. So for me, I have to take that further, a little bit of step back, start with the game, and I do have to take into account the players, who's going to be there, that I know for sure, because if I don't even know who's playing, then I tend to build worlds like, have any of you guys ever played the old game Might and Magic?
Yes.
Okay, when they made that game, you know, they built the world and populated with all these little things and all these little quests that people might never go to, but they're still there.
Yep.
And I kind of look at it like that, you know, or at least when I'm looking at like a world that's going to be the main focus, and they're not leaving it. Maybe they will later on do some spell jammy crap or find an old starship or something. But, you know, build the world, and if they get there to this quest, then that leads here and there. Again, I do a sandbox thing almost 99% of the time, so I don't have a huge, you know, goal for them in mind. I might have, like we talked about before, there's a big bad guy ruling the world. He's going to be the ultimate boss. If they get to, let's say for, you know, Pathfinder D&D sake, they get to 19th or 20th level, they'll probably be fighting him. If they win, game over. Everybody retires and lives happily ever after, etc. Everybody sings songs about them for the next couple hundred years until something else comes along. So I kind of build very differently. I'll set up all these things. Like Crafty says, you don't have to populate each and every little city and town and mountain range, etc. Start where you know they're going to start off. You know, they're going to start in this town, at this tavern, and then I'll work my way out, because players, especially in a sandbox campaign, especially if they know it's a sandbox, they will do things that you'll have to make up on the fly. You'll be making up more stuff on the fly than you'll actually use. So for me, having to learn how to improvise has been more important than any other skill. I need to be able to pull crap. Exactly. Over prep leads to railroad, even subconsciously. The GM will want the players to see every set piece the GM spent time on, so the players need to find it, or else. That I never have that problem, because half the time my world building is the map with names and pictures, and that's it. And I know that I drew a little dragon over here in this ocean. That means if they go in that ocean, guess what they're going to find? Probably a dragon, unless they're really careful and, you know, get to and from wherever they're going, and you know, avoid some rolls, you know, whatever. But I really don't put too much into it until they get to the new place. Then, you know, I'll improvise as much as I can, take some notes on what happened and what I said was law, so to speak. If I say this town's filled with, you know, hobgoblins, then I'll write that down. This is a hobgoblin town. It's really not likely to happen, but you guys get my point.
Yeah. So we've answered your world, like, where do we start a world building at question. Do you have another one, Connell?
You're midway through the campaign, and they have found who is the not big G bad guy, but the middle, the last guy in the laundry list of assholes they have to deal with, to save the princess or whatever. And you get a player who completely just throws a wrench into it. Well, I don't want to do this. She kind of got herself into this own mess. I want to go a different direction. What do you do when that happens? When the players just completely jump tracks on you?
Ooh. You want to field this one first, Shadow, or shall I?
Sure. There's two ways you can go about it. This is the adventure I planned for tonight. This is what you're going to do because you guys brought us here, or come up with something else and face the consequences of what obviously, princess isn't getting rescued. Okay, well, she's going to die a horrible death, and everyone will know that you were the only ones who could save her. You got something better to do? That's fine. I get that. It's not very heroic of you, but maybe you guys don't want to be the heroes. That's cool too. And if that was the case, and we knew that to begin with, probably wouldn't put them on the line, to be saving a princess to begin with. Or maybe they just saw it on, the ye old bulletin board, and it's like, oh, princess needs rescuing. Some of the players are like, yeah, that could bring us some money. At the same time, I don't want to do it, says the other half of the party. Then come up with something better. What do you guys want to do instead? If there is ye old bulletin board, there's a bunch of things on there that I'm ready for. I wouldn't put them on the board if I wasn't ready for them, right? Leave a couple of, posties. Here's, half a dozen quest ideas, jobs, whatever you want to call them. Pick one. I put them on the board. I should kind of have an idea which one, what any of them lead to. And grab one. Okay, I'll roll with that. But if they, decide in the middle of a quest, they're like, yeah, you know what? Screw this. We just found these cool magic items along the way. We want to go back to town and do research and yada, yada, yada. Again, remind them, well, I was ready for you guys to do this. So I spent 2 nights drawing up the dungeon that you guys were heading to. But now because you found some treasure from some random wandering monsters, you want to go take those back home and do whatever. Just know that, maybe somebody else will hit the dungeon before you guys finish all your BS and get back on track, or whatever reason you were going there for will have consequences for not being taken care of. You can either hit them hard with, breaking that fourth wall, telling them, hey, this is what I planned for you guys to do. This was the social contract we kind of, walked into. You guys want to change it midway, understand that, it's probably not going to be as cool as that thing I already worked on, but I'm cool with you changing plans because, you are supposed to have free will and some agency here and be allowed to, change your mind at any moment. But for
Free
every
will?
action, there's an opposite reaction, and actions have consequences.
What he says is a funny word, free will. What's that when it comes to gaming? I don't know what free will is because my God will smite me if I don't do what he says.
Saying what you said, but couldn't read and talk at the same time. Sorry.
So
I don't know.
what do you got there, Jade?
Yeah,
Put this
so
one, put that one up.
this has happened to me more times than I care to recount, where I will prep in one direction and then my players will want to go the completely opposite direction. Maybe because they're just not jiving with that hook anymore. Maybe they're just not interested in completing that little arc, what have you. And that's fine. They don't have to. There's consequences for inaction as well as action. I am a big believer in player choice and consequence, especially the second part, the consequence.
Yeah.
So if the players decide, I'm not going to go down that path anymore, that path leads to misery, and I don't want to be miserable as a character, not necessarily a player, I'm like, okay, you don't have to travel that path. I have 20,000 other adventure plots I could throw at you. And I literally do. I can just reach into my deck of cards and throw out another plot point to go to. I can plot things on the fly. I don't like to. I like to have prep stuff. I like to have, like certain encounters designed because I do encounter designing based on thematically appropriate things to where the players were heading anyway. So, if they're going to go, well, we're in the middle of a jungle, and instead of going into that cave over there to rescue Chieftain's daughter, we're going to go fight that dragon over there. Okay, you can do that. I'm not going to stop you. That's a choice you can make. But the ransom note did say if by the 10th moon the ransom wasn't paid, yada yada happens. Well, guess what? Yada yada happens because we had to go fight a dragon. Did you get awesome loot from the dragon? Yeah, if you survived it, sure. If you didn't, well, sucks to be you, and we're going to move on with the rest of the game. I'll get new characters brought in. That's fine. So when players go, hey, that's not the direction we want to go. For my homebrew games, not necessarily a problem. For module-based games, that could be a big problem.
That's
like I said, I've had this happen to me multiple times, more times than I really care to count. One of those is definitely Wrath of the Righteous. Like, if you're running a module or an AP set, like from Paizo, if you're running it by the book constantly, there are going to be parts where the players go, I don't want to do that. And the book doesn't really give you much deviation room.
Yeah.
Especially once you get into the Abyss and to the Islands of Midnight, like you don't really have much deviation happening there. You can deviate, but what kind of shenanigans are going to get the players killed at that point? Granted, if you're running it by the module, by the book, they're also mythic rank like 5 or 6, and they're pretty much unkillable anyway. So they just annoy demon lords until the demon lords kick them out or squish them under thumb.
Or shunt them to a different plane of existence with the spider fucking queen.
Or shunt them out of that dimension, sure. So being able to switch up your plot lines on demand, it can be done. It shouldn't be done. As Crafty had said, your players should be touching base with you at the end of the session, like, hey, we don't like where this is going, or hey, we do like where this is going. Let's continue this path. Like there are some questions to be asking at the end of every session, like, hey, what are you guys thinking of this? Is this something, is this the path you want to continue on? And you can reinforce some of that, like, hey, here's what the ransom said as a reward was. Check your player notes, assuming people are keeping notes these days. I sure as hell do. But you touch base with them after the end of every session, just to make sure that things are on track. And if players go, hey, at the end of sessions, like, we're really not feeling this direction, can we change things up for the next session? That's where the DM says, yes, I can absolutely change things for the next session. But it's the next session, not day before session. And that's something that players have to be aware of. Like, game masters put in so much effort most of the time prepping throughout the week. Maybe it's a few hours here, maybe it's a few minutes there. Some do, but me, I'll prep 2 to 3 hours during the week, maybe up to 5 hours for my next session. And it'll be random little plot points that I'm making. Like, I might spend an hour on one day, like, okay, this is going to be the opening point. The next thing will be, okay, this is like my mid-arc point. On day 3, I might come up with my final encounter. Day 4, I might revise whatever encounters I have. But it's only like an hour to a half hour here or there. It's not anything major. But again, if the players go, hey, we're not doing what you planned, okay, that's fine. I'll just find another way to TPK the group.
Can we go up to Bruce's first comment, not the second one? But Bruce, you forced us to take time to level up. You can choose not to level up. Your characters don't know they're leveling up per se. Okay, that's a little metagamey. I get it because I've been there. I was like, I want to level up, but at the same time, a lot of professions can level up on the road. There's a really famous scene in the Lord of the Rings movie where Boromir is, kind of sword fighting with the hobbits. That was training. It may not seem like much, but for hobbits, that was, momentous. That was huge. They a couple of days, a week ago or so, they had never held a sword in their hand. Now they at least know how to do it right to some extent. You can either, role play the hell out of training or snap your fingers, it's over. Players,
80s montage.
Yeah, exactly. The players really shouldn't, put a whole lot on it. I've played games where I wouldn't let them level up. Sorry, guys, there's just no time. You are in the middle of a dungeon. You can't level up. Sorry. What are you going to do? How are you going to level up? You're kind of worried about the orc beating down the door or, moving silently to the next room. You don't get to level up. Now, there are, Bruce is nice and he lets you have certain aspects of leveling up immediately. That's cool. Nobody says you have to do that as far as I know. Other DMs just go, you level up, roll your dice, you get everything instantly. It all depends, but it really shouldn't, be a huge issue unless you're really micromanaging the game. In AD&D, you could have to spend up to 4 weeks and pay money, lots of money, to get that next level. You didn't just automatically ding and get it. But at the same time, that can suddenly become an optional rule. Every case is going to be different. Every DM is going to be different. Every play style is going to be different. Depending on how you, for example, describe your character at the very beginning of the game, they don't necessarily have to, come across as first level. You can describe your character, to where, they come across as 7th level, they're first, and by the time they've reached 7th level, the game could literally have required 0 training on your part. It's, a lot of these mechanical rule things would be better off not talked about during the game and only talked about after the game to get the story moving along. Everybody drink. It really depends on your situation, your game, your players, your DM. Of course, the players are going to go, yeah, we want instantaneous leveling up, no fees, and no downtime.
Now,
maybe your DM's okay with that. Maybe he's not. Personally,
that's a weird concept for me. Maybe because I've never played the earlier editions, but having to pay to level up. Now, I played video games in the past where I have to dump a shitload of gold to get to the next level, but I've never had to do that in my RP session. I'm kind of glad that I've never had to go into my RP session because me personally, I like to keep my video games and my RP sessions different from each other.
Where do you think they got that idea from?
Here's the thing. That's one of the huge differences between the older versions and the new versions. Well, if you don't have to pay for training, you don't need to find as much treasure.
Well, I'm okay with the concept of paying for training. I think that should be added in. If you want to do the next level of archery or fighting or whatever, you have to find a master of that style. I am 5x5 on that one. But to say I've been hoarding my money for the last 5 sessions. What's everybody's level? Well, we're all level 1. Well, I'm gonna be level fucking 3 because I decided to hoard my fucking money. Screw you all. I don't know if that's actually possible, but you see where I'm going.
Time and money.
No. You have to earn the XP.
Oh.
You have to earn the XP and then pay for the training, or you are still the previous level.
Okay.
And depending on how well you earned your XP in the old days, you were it was going to take you between 1 and 4 weeks of training. If you were the fighterliest fighter that ever fought a fight, it would take you 1 week. But if you were the fighter that stayed in the back of the party, holding the torches and letting the wizard and the priest do all the work, then but you still helped kill the monsters, or you just were there and siphoning XP, the DM could say, well, it's going to take you 4 weeks to get to second level and X number of gold. While the rest of the party, they've got, they did their stuff right. It's only going to take them a week or 2 weeks each. So they got, all kinds of free time. So while you're sitting there schlepping around training, they're going to go do some in-town, carousing and spending the last little copper they have and getting some bar fights, and you're going to miss out on all that. Well, what, Bruce?
Which one? I'll do them again. This one is the old version of the game. You find 10,000, and you suddenly had to split 10,000 experience amongst the party. Yeah, well,
depending on how you found it. If you just walked down the road and the DM said you find 10,000 gold, no, you don't get dick. But if you killed a whole bunch of orcs and trolls and crap like that, and you got that much gold, then absolutely you would get the XP for that. But if you just find it because the DM's feeling generous, no. But if you had a thief who snuck into the room, picked the lock, and snuck out with the treasure, absolutely, because you still defeated the problem. Now, whether or not you're going to get the XP for killing the monster or not, because he's still killable and may come tracking you down later to get his money back, you probably don't get the XP for that. But if you were, say, like the hobbits in The Hobbit, or Bilbo in The Hobbit, and you found a way to sneak past those trolls instead of all getting scooped up, the DM may very well give you the XP for defeating those trolls, because you're never going to see them again, but you didn't have to fight them. You found a way around them, therefore defeating them. So you may actually get some of that XP because you're never going to see them again in the DM's eyes.
Well, that leads me to my next question. If it's cool with you two, if I ask another question.
Yes, Crafty, it kind of is.
Now, have you ever built a counter in a homebrew campaign? Because it seems like both of you guys do more homebrews than you do modules, and that's fine. I'm really the module guy in this conversation, it feels like, but that's cool. Do you ever run a counter where it is the opposite of the Captain Kirk thought processing? Is, there's not a, I don't believe in a losable or a non-winning situation. There's always a way to win.
Kirk. Okay.
Yeah, where you're actually the best decision for your players to do is to say nope. And
absolutely, absolutely. If you roll random encounter tables and lo and behold, here's a red dragon, and you rolled up a red dragon, you are by no means obligated to throw that red dragon at that first level party for any reason. You can say no, or you can say, hey, you guys see a red dragon flying overhead, but he hasn't seen you yet. What do? Give him a way to run the hell away, or don't put it in the way, because then you are literally trying to kill them slowly and with, varying degrees of maliciousness, involved there. In the old days, outdoor encounters could be literally anything, but the GM knew that throwing, Tiamat up against a first level party was just, not okay. But then when you went into a dungeon, they literally had like your CR rules, where if you're in a first level dungeon, you can roll on these charts, and these are appropriate and fair level monsters for a average party. Now, maybe when you rolled up exactly the number of the monsters, maybe it's a little too much, maybe it's not enough, but there were kind of guidelines to go by in said actual dungeons.
Now, outdoors, you're talking about this broad right here.
Okay.
That's Tima.
From here, it actually looks like a puppet. Like it's plush.
Well, I call this jalapeno on a stick. Why is it on a stick? Because it has a stick up its ass. Well, really more into the gut, but that's besides the point. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. A random encounter, we were actually talking about doing random encounters as a conversation, how some people like to use them and some people
I never do those. I never use those.
I don't
I
mind
almost never
wearing
roll
them
for.
founders, but I think it's definitely an interesting. It's a DM by DM choice. Now, what were you going to say there, Jade? Before I completely stamper onto the next thought.
What was your question again?
When you're doling out your plan for the weeks ahead campaign, and you want to challenge your party, and you know you have a bunch of knuckle draggers in your party that are like murdering hobo everything, but you want to put them in such a situation that the only option is for them is to say no. Is that something
That the
you will
correct
do?
answer is to say nope.
Yes.
Do I do that? Well, the question is not whether I do that. The question is
When?
there a reason for it? I have put those encounters in play where I designed an encounter that the players are supposed to run away because there's just no way in hell they're going to defeat it. But it is foreshadowing what they are eventually going to have to do. So, now I'm going to give something away for anybody who does play in my games. I will foreshadow my, big bads early on, like first, second, third session. Like I will foreshadow the hell out of them. You might see a guy who's dressed all in red walking through the streets of a city. The next couple days, people start going missing. And then, they track down a cult, of people all dressed in red. Well, then they hear a couple weeks later another town where a man dressed all in red was showed up before people went missing. So I'm going to foreshadow those encounters. Now, if they decide to try to fight that encounter rather than steer clear of it, especially once they start connecting that idea of, hey, this guy all in red is our big bad. We either need to steer clear of him until we have an idea of what he is actually capable of, or they decide, nope, we're just going to fight him. At which point, I let them make their own decisions. Like, if they choose to fight somebody who's level 15 without actually researching who it is they're trying to fight or kill, that's their problem. That's a them problem. The game comes to an end at that point, and we start the next game or start the next party of adventurers who might have had connections to this first party. Who knows? But, am I going to pull my punches? Maybe for the first 2 or 3 levels, let people start to feel out the world, get used to the world, get, become part of the world. First 2 or 3 levels, I might, pad it a little bit, bring out the foam swords and whatnot. After that point, though, once they have a feeling of the world and once they have a firm grasp of the concept of the world, I'm going to pull the kid gloves off, and they're going to have an uphill battle until the very end. I'm going to be pushing those encounter boundaries, and I'm going to, pretty much bring them to the brink multiple times throughout the entire game of, they're at the knife's edge of losing or winning, and one wrong decision could mean a character death. But to me, that is, I don't know, it drives tension. And tension can lead to some spectacular role playing, and spectacular snap decision making. Like, people can go, "Oh no, this is going to happen. How do we prevent it?" And they'll come up with some way right then and there on the spot to circumvent the issue. So,
all right. Sorry about that. My daughter just came home.
So, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, that answered my question. I got hold on 2 things really quick. I'm now looking into a drink. The question
That looked like something totally weird and different. I did not think that's what that was.
Chandra, we're talking. The question of tonight is: where do DMs go when they got questions of for running the game. Yeah, Shadow just put it in there. I'll throw it up.
Seems
yeah.
like you guys wanted to have a preamble on tomorrow night's discussion topic.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what tomorrow night's discussion topic is off the top of my head. But we don't
what
have
to
to
do when
mention
the
it right
players
now.
and GM don't see eye to eye. Like, hey guys, there's some quest-worthy mountains over here. Go fucking explore them.
That I've got other things for that topic. But no, like, where do we go as game masters when we're stuck on something? Like, you've been asking questions of us specifically about specific topics. I think the broader question is, where do we go when we're stumped?
Like, oh God, I want you to. You don't even have to buy prep. You can go over to Raging Swan Press right now and download all the free shit that he's got, and you're gonna have topic for years. Yeah, Crafty says I go to other GMs.
Yeah, other GMs, absolutely.
And the thing is I go over to Raging Swan Press because he has tables that are free, and he has things that are free and resources that are free. Did I mention they're free? They don't fucking cost a fucking thing. And you go there, and he has things that, like, you'll pick up stuff like contents of a dead cleric's pockets, or you'll have things that will get the players off their stupid idea of, I don't want to go in those quest-worthy mountains and fight kobolds. And it'll give them something that will help you route the players back to their original location they're supposed to be going, because you have to paddle their ass, okay? You must spank that ass. You have to get them back on track and get them back in the game. And go to other GMs. Other GMs have tables. They have resources. They have story ideas. Just something to distract your players and then get them back on track, because you can focus them back to where they need to be going. If you are playing a railroad style game, what I do, I roll a lot of different things because I run a sandbox, a hex crawl. I know that's evil for some people, but hex crawls are
brilliant. Honestly,
they're fucking great because you can pepper the area with so many clues and so many small things that you could do to help get the players back on track, or get them to a back door to where instead of them going up Red Mountain properly the first way, they can maybe go around Red Mountain's back door, and they might have enough hit points to survive wielding that sword the first time. And then they can achieve their final quest, whatever it might be. But I always go to, like, Creighton Broadhurst. He's a guy that runs Raging Swan Press. Raging Swan Press has so many free things available. Anybody that's poor in our circle that wants to run a game, I'm going to face you to Raging Swan Press, and you're going to go and download oodles upon oodles of stuff to get your campaign off the ground and get your players to like 10th, 11th level. Minimum.
Provided you want them to go there. Lately, I hear, so many GMs do not want their players leveling up, do not want them getting, higher levels. It just gets harder for the DM. And for me, that's always been an absolute load of horse crap.
You have me and Jade in this chat right now, Shadow, and both of us love mid to high level play. Jade over there, he hears high level play, and he goes out and he buys a year's supply of the blue pill because he wants to be busy. Okay, he's gonna fuck the players.
As that you want to play to level 52?
Right. As a former player of a Jade's table, I can honestly say it's worth sometimes going the extra levels. Yeah, I don't want to play this character after level 15. Go fuck yourself. It's not about what you want, it's about what the story's got going on.
Has anybody here actually run like literal god levels? Like the immortal rules from Beck Me or anything like that?
That guy right there. Not so much this guy,
right, cool,
but that guy.
So 3.0 put out a book called Deities and Demigods.
Yeah, that's been done, but yeah.
And I've taken players into deific levels or deific tiers.
Cool.
Zero,
You know,
Cool.
I think
Divinity.
I got to deific tier 5 and had like 6 salient divine abilities each. Or they were a saint of some kind and had deific like powers. So yeah, I've definitely run games that went up to like 40th, 50th, 60th level with deific madness as well.
Now, what you have to understand though, when you sit down at a table, it being Jade's table or somebody else that runs like that, because I can think of at least 2 other people that run high level campaigns of that nature. Well,
I know 7 people who would run that.
Wow, I don't know. Well, I probably do know them, but I haven't been at their table.
You've been at 2 tables.
Okay, I'm thinking one of them, and okay, it doesn't matter. Anyways, but there's a discussion, in my opinion. There's got to be a discussion between the DM and the players. Hey guys, this is going to be a 20+ campaign. This is not going to be a couple months and then we're done. This might be a couple years and we might be done. 2 of you guys might be married and one of you might be having a kid by then. But this is how long it's going to be. So sit down, buckle up, and enjoy yourself. And I personally enjoy campaigns that go up into the higher tiers because they just, to me, they get more crunchier.
Sure.
And I like the crunch. I am a Pathfinder 3.5 gamer. I like the crunch.
I'm getting away from the crunch, but I can still run those epic levels of game without levels. I should say I can run the epic kind of game without levels. I don't need a leveling system to run those upper echelons of powerful games.
Right.
I just need the creativity, and I need players who are going to be equally creative and willing to play at that high tier of game power.
No, that's more than fair. All right. So we all have places that we. Oh, what was that, Bruce?
Do you remember the thing I like to do when the players are dragging their feet? Say they want to go left instead of going right. And I'm not the DM. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just come back in 14 days, and hopefully you guys don't kind of fuck over my deal with you because like I really wanted to prep for this left-hand corridor. I don't really do that. I mean, I can understand where people will do that, but I will ask for a 5-minute break, intermission, let me go poop, and while I do that, I'm going to go through about 6 or 7 tables while I'm on a porcelain throne, look at some things. And I'm going to get you guys at least 8 hours of entertainment off these tables. And we're going to figure something out because you guys are going to encounter bad guys. You're going to get clues. You're going to have NPCs encounter you. And then you're going to have some sort of epiphany, I hope. Maybe by the end of the session, you'll realize you were wrong in going left and when instead you went right. It might have to be like you're walking down the left-hand corridor, smug in your ability to like, haha, the DM is having to make shit up. And then you hear the clatter of D6s coming out of the idol, holding the burning brazier. And you see 10 dice 6 enter the camera view because there was just a cave-in. And if you survive, you have to dig your way out and you have to leave and find your way back to the intersection and maybe choose again. Maybe that might happen. And I'm not saying that's a great way to do it, but I'm going to tell you that before that happens, the dwarf in the party might notice there's dust sifting down in the cavern.
There's a lot of dust sifting down in this cavern. I don't feel safe traveling through here. I refuse to go another step in this accursed passage.
And then he drinks some beer, and the rest of the party will go ahead, and he'll be standing back.
What are you doing? Do you not see the dust sifting down from the ceiling?
And if you make a perception check, if you look around actively, yeah, you do see dust. It looks like this is maybe the start of a cave-in. Do you wish to keep going?
And the other aspect of that is, or the flip side of that is, okay, I planned for the players to go right. The players went left. Okay, I'm just going to take my map and mirror it over.
I was just gonna fucking say that. They don't know
the difference
unless they've been cheating and looking at your map. Just flip and go. Okay, cool. Oh, all right.
Oh yeah,
exactly. Just mirror the map, and
there's nothing. I mean, yeah, unless they're cheating and looking at your notes, or they went and bought the module to know everything.
I hate that.
Every little nook and cranny is.
I find out somebody did that, I will never play with them again. You do that, that's like the ultimate in cheating. You went out and spent good hard-earned money to cheat. I get, fudging a die roll or something like that, but you went out of your way. That's like premeditated murder in Dungeons and Dragons. You went out of your way to go and set this up so that you would look like, the ultimate gamer. You knew, you just made all the right decisions every step of the way. Never again.
Yeah.
Because I've actually had that happen multiple times.
I've had it happen once or twice.
Here's the situation I'm in. I only really own one module at the current moment. I might actually that's not well. That's really is true. I only own one module, and I've said it multiple times, but it won't. As a DM, when it comes to this module, I've only done it as a DM. I've never really got to be a player and run it through. Yes, I know. You can't. I don't see. I disagree with that. See, that's only a problem if you have the module and you are the type A personality where you have to take charge. Now, if you're a type whatever personality and say, you know what, I want to be in this campaign, but you see that guy over there who wants to be the caller or the guy who is the leader of the group who wants to call all the shots around, I'll let him. I'll very much will let him call all the shots. And I will act ignorant as the hell for everything just to play the game. Because sometimes it is what you have to do. Yeah, it's a little bit of a sin, but it's not fair that just because I ran it, I don't get to play it.
Sorry, I disagree.
I guarantee you, if someone was to put together a Wrath of the Righteous game and was running it exactly the way I ran it, I would still play in it. Even though I ran the game all the way through to its completion and read every little piece of lore, including the companion novel that Pathfinder or Paizo put out. I can't remember what the novel was called at this point, but I read the companion novel to go that, kind of give some more backstory. Even with all that, I would still play in the game, knowing all those little, nonsensical things. But I know I can keep in-game and out-of-game knowledge separated. Like I can put a barrier there, say, yes, I know that that's there out of game. My character does not know it's there. So I'm not going to go looking for secret doors.
Right, I get all that, but that's like trying to watch a movie and pretend like you didn't.
Well, wait, but I do that every St. Patrick's Day. It's called Boondock Saints. It's traditional.
Yeah, but you black out halfway through it, so you've never actually fully seen it. The flaw in that is I've watched enough and read enough material that I can just predict what's going to happen in the movie. Like, I haven't seen...
Sure, absolutely. That's one of the reasons I don't watch movies anymore.
I haven't seen what's the new Doctor Strange or new Marvel film, whatever, which one it's out. But if I sit down in the theater or at home and start watching it, I know, because of how human beings construct stories, what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and how we're going to get there. Like, I can just kind of path my way through the stories. You can do the same thing in games because, well, humans have been telling stories for well over 9,000 years. Well over.
And God help you if you actually watched one of the trailers, then you saw the whole movie.
Or that. Right, pretty much. Or they put stuff in the trailer that's not going to be in the movie, whatever. Because that's been a recent thing. But No, so because human beings have been telling stories, and I pay attention to how stories are written, how they're told, how they're shown, I can use predictive assumption to kind of know what's around the next corner. So I'm rarely surprised in even games. A game master might have built this entire huge scenario and he's really hoping to surprise everyone with it. But because I've watched M. Night Shyamalan, I know the twist. I know it's coming. I'm not going to be surprised. I might, find it enjoyable. I might be entertained by it, but I'm not going to be surprised by it.
There's this a saying that we say a lot in DAG here. It might be in other places, but there's a saying that's often been said. It's called "I've drank and slept since then." Hey, do you remember when this happened, dude? I've drank and slept since then. I don't remember everything that happens in these modules. I don't care enough to. Even in the module I'm running, I don't care. It's like there is one part of the module where the whole thing does not have to happen. It only happens if the players hear a animal that's in danger, an animal screaming because it's being hurt or something. If the players say, no, we don't want to deal with that, nature's just being nature, and then keep on tracking down, they completely avoid the encounter with the inbred orcs. If they're like, no, we have to go save that animal because PETA told us we have to, then you have to deal with the inbred orcs. It's only if the players choose to do it. Now, I've ran this campaign at least now going on 4 times. Now, 4 times, that particular switch has only been switched once, turned on once. So, I mean, there's things in modules that happen that could happen that the players don't even know about. And if Jade ran it, and like you said, just because somebody run it doesn't mean you can't play in it, but you have to put up a hard wall saying, no, I'm not going to act like my character knows things that it shouldn't know about the campaign.
That is hard for some people to do.
I like
hard.
Yeah, and that's fair, and that's but we've all played video games, right?
I think we're off topic at this point.
Well, not necessarily. There's a problem. There's a question in there. I'm just trying to figure out what the wordage would be. If a DM, okay, here's a question: do you prefer to play with other DMs, or do you like playing with new people when playing a campaign?
Doesn't matter.
Some people, you're right. It doesn't matter. But here's the going back to the conversation we were just having. If you DM long enough and you're gaming with other DMs, we know all the tricks. Oh, we should. In the trap, the rogue should check every step because the DM there might be a trap there. Or do the don't open the door. Do the jingle check where you just move the door handle slightly. Just depends on who your DM is. But we know most of the tricks out there, so we're not so much surprised. So yeah, the question is: do you want to be surprised? Do you want to be with a group of new players that get surprised at every little thing that you're so old hat to, that you're kind of jaded to? Forgive the no pun included. Or do you want to be with other DMs that hopefully that spark of, hey, I've never done this might happen?
Mixed,
yeah.
Yeah, new, old doesn't really matter.
I prefer DMs. I prefer playing with other DMs for the explicit reason that if they leave my table happy, then I fucking did damn near the impossible. Because a lot of DMs are really picky and they want to have like a good time, but it's got to be like they got to have their prostate massage and then they got to go like get a neck rub from Critical Role. And then after that, they have to like go watch like The Hobbit on Ice because it's more entertaining than the Hobbit trilogy. And they have to have like all these great events happen in their life. And if you can make your players happy when they DM their own games, when you give them the chance to let loose and you give them the opportunities to do things that in other games they don't do. And that is up into and including self-destruction of the party. If you allow them to do that, if you give them a good time, then you did your job. I would rather play with other DMs. Not that playing with new players is bad. I love playing with new players. But with new players, I feel like I'm running a puppet show. When I have guys like Connell and Shadow in my game, Shadow's ran a game for 30 years damn near. The same game.
Yep.
And I'm able to get a smile on his face. I'm all right. I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're right. The question was off topic. It's more or less just questions I have, and I am a DM asking other DMs because these are really I just met Shadow, but Jade has been one of my key DMs now for a better part of 12 years? No, longer than that.
2006.
Yeah. Oh God, I'm old. And Bruce has been my on and off DM for about, not as long, but for a while. So when I have questions, these are the two people I go to. And I'm not a new DM, but I am still somewhat a new DM. Now, when I have questions involving the old school one, then, I have to ask other people. But is there one thing?
That was referring to myself.
Right now, is there just, with all the other editions out there, let's go from 3X on. If you had the opportunity to take out all the feats, just all of them, fuck them all. We're getting rid of all of them.
Anything is an option, Connell. You could put feats in BX. You could run 5e as just a binary game, yes and no.
I'm getting told off by Crafty.
I love having Crafty in chat.
Oh, I appreciate it. So, all right. Let's go back to the very best. Where do you go, Jade, if you got questions? Do you have older gamer friends that you ask?
So yeah, when I have come across something that I'm stumped on, it depends on what it is I'm stumped on. If it's game mechanics, I go to the books. I go out to online forums. Giant in the Playground is a good resource for me for that. I also will go to other YouTube channels. I have watched, I think, more than half of Professor Dungeon Master. I've watched How to Be a Great GM. I've watched some of our own, some of the Legion of Myth guys. I've watched so many other channels on different various topics, and I'll cherry pick those topics based on whatever I might be stuck on. If it's a world building question, well, because I'm running a world that a friend of mine and I both have built on or built in, I'll give my buddy Reese a call. Be like, hey Reese, I'm working on something within your hemisphere, and I've come across this problem. I don't know the answer. Might you know the answer, or did you ever give thought to this? So I, collaboratively work with this other game master that I haven't actually sat at the table of, or he has not sat at my table in going on 15 years now, I think. Well, since before 2006, whatever it might be. But, because, we worked on the same world together, I know everything on my hemisphere. I have planned out everything on my side of the world. I know where everything is. I know the names of things. I know the cultures and the peoples of that half the world. The other half is all his. His is very Asian culture. It's very Asian influenced culture. It's got more dragons to it than mine does, but it has more of the Western, or not Western, the Eastern dragons, the lungs, and the Chinese and Japanese mythos of dragons. my world has the more Western world of dragons. It has more traditional blacks and reds and greens. It's very rare you might see a gold or a silver. I digress from there. So yeah, I'll go to my buddy Reese for world building questions on that world. I might go to another buddy of mine for game mechanics because he understands the mechanics so intimately that he can break the game at level 1. He knows 3-5 that well. He knows exactly how to break the game at level 1. And he doesn't even have to fudge dice. He could roll a 2 and still hit most everything. It's just the way he builds and knows the system that innately. So if I have like an encounter building question, I might go to him. But anymore, it's rare that I have these questions come up because I've been playing and mastering the game for over 20 years. With all of that experience, it's very hard for me rare for me to come up with something that goes, I don't know the answer, or I can't find the answer. Mm-hmm. I guess Easter dragons are just flying snakes. Yeah, but there's a lot of mysticism to them. There's a lot of magic that is involved there. So,
now that's oversimplifying, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of things with Easter dragons that a lot of people just don't understand. I'm one of the people who don't fully understand Eastern dragons because I don't deep dive into Eastern culture as much as others might.
All right. Well, I've asked most of the questions tonight, and before we switch over to somebody else to ask questions, Bruce, we already heard your point of view on this one. Raging Swan
Press.
Raging Swan Press, which I will be looking into it because I am the poor DM. I am, but that's okay. So, what about you, Shadow? Where do you go to for inspiration, or you got questions that need to be answered?
I've got a huge list of things. We've covered friends. We've covered, well, maybe not family, but I'm going to lump them together because I went through this, with the who, the where, and the what, or all the places, including people and things that you can go to for answers. You could, I put in pastor or religion because a lot of people out there have different religious or those kinds of beliefs. And in all aspects of life, there are sometimes needs to go to people like that. If you're a religious person, you may have some questions that they can actually answer, or your, let's just call it religious book of choice. There may be answers there for things to keep yourself in line with your own, things you do and don't want to do even in a game. Because back in the day, there were a lot of ethical questions about this game that we're not going to get into. But if anybody out there actually has something like that, that might be a place to go or a person to go to. And then the greatest resource of all, if you have questions, and this really goes for anything these days, I think is YouTube. That's why I'm here in the first place, because I was looking for all kinds of things, not necessarily questions to be answered, but questions I didn't know the answer to. There's so much information these days that can be found here on YouTube, and maybe there's other places like that, but I don't really go to most of those places, and really, I'm kind of stuck here for the duration. But it's not just gaming questions, but they can be gaming questions that you can find answers for. When I was first finding out about the current editions of Dungeons and Dragons, I literally went into other YouTubers who were making D&D videos and would ask them straight up questions about, for example, 5th edition. I'd heard that you could literally change your profession as soon as you went up a level. You could just change into a completely diametrically opposed profession. For example, in back when I played, if you were a barbarian, you could never become a monk. And if you did somehow become a monk, you were no longer a barbarian. Okay, all of that would just gone. Okay, well, I found out, yeah, now you can do that. And no, you don't necessarily have to train in the new profession. You just suddenly magically went from being a barbarian to a first level wizard without any story backing you up per se.
There's a little bit more to that, but you're not far off base. It falls into I run 5e. If I had a person who wanted to do that, I would bring, but you haven't had that divinity moment. You haven't had that a reason why you're going from being a barbarian to a paladin. Yes, you can do it if your ability stat says you can, but you have to have a story reason to do it. You can't just say, "Hey, I'm past sixth level."
But does the book say that you absolutely have to have those, or does the book say you could just do it?
The book says you have to have the stats to allow you to do it. You
That's
have
it.
to have the stats. That's it.
Right.
But with everything else, it's really up to the DM's decision. That's
Trust
how it
me,
should always be.
having asked about 10 very much bigger dungeon masters than all of us here, YouTubers combined in the hundreds of thousands of, subscribers, let's say, and years and years and years of doing it, I got kind of the same answer over and over and over again, which was something I absolutely could not stomach. I mean, what you just said, if more dungeon masters or books actually said those things, that I could be on board with. But the idea of going from literally a barbarian to a monk, where in the old days a barbarian had to be chaotic, monks had to be lawful, that to me is just, it's wacko jacko. Okay, that I think covers all of the people and part of the places that would be where online. Absolutely, you can find your answers online for literally anything, even things you really shouldn't get answers for. You can still find those answers. But another place, actually two places, and then we'll move on to the next thing. Your libraries and your game stores, especially for new people. Sure, you can look up and probably get your answer faster online, but for some people, there may be really weird questions or really weird things you want to know, or you're just not finding online. Go to your library, go to your local game store, especially if they're selling the game that you're having questions with. Those two places have got to be, on the list of where you can go for answers. And like I said, it doesn't even have to be game answers. You could have just a problem in life, and boom, online library or local store that deals in maybe the topic. Maybe you have a tool question. If you go into Home Depot and you ask somebody who works there, you're going to get probably a better answer than if you go to someplace online or the library.
That's fair. Now, I ran the show, The Question Wise, for the last hour and change. Do you three have any questions you want to throw out there that, switch it up?
Do we have any questions to ask about switching up, or do we have any stories of switching it up?
No, I mean, do you guys have, as DMs, do you have any questions that you want to throw to the panel? Where I've been throwing the questions up. Do you three have any? Just just hear what you guys think, or would have questions too. I mean, just kind of round table this a little bit. Don't all speak up at once.
I'm just thinking about how many answers I have here, because there's a lot.
Okay. All right. Last question. So you're a D. Oh, not. Here's a question. I shouldn't say last question. Here's a question for the DMs. If you got a person that's worth having your table, but it's just a pain in the ass, I'm more or less pointing at me for the most part on this one, but he's worth having at your table. Do you go and talk to other DMs about saying, how can I ring this guy in? Do I just kick him from the table? Do I just see where he goes? Because every once in a while, he has his moments of brilliance. Or do you
I'd
just
go
like?
straight to the source. I'd go straight to the source and talk to the individual in person,
Yeah,
unless.
ain't no business to beat around the bush.
Yeah, I mean, there are a few cases. We were just talking about one earlier before the show, which I definitely want your opinion on because it's someone I don't know. Therefore, I don't necessarily want to go straight to the source first. I like to do a little research about said individual before I approach the individual or individuals. But if it's someone I know and, they're something's just not clicking, but I still want them at the table, I would absolutely go right to them and say, hey, what's up, man? Do you want to be here? Do is this just a bad time? Is there something that's eating at you, bugging you? Maybe you're not clicking with the other players. Maybe it gets you into a different game with different people. Find out. Go straight to the source. Find out what the problem is, and then you can deal with the problem. Otherwise, you're just kind of prolonging the issue, as far as I can see.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's always just better to head things off at the pass and get directly to the point with someone. If you've got a problem player, you pull them aside either after the session, you keep them back after the session, or you drive them home if that might be the case, and be like, hey, here's the problem I'm having. And you just lay it out. And people who, might get butt hurt easily, well, they're going to get upset. It's just going to happen. There are ways to mitigate some of that butt hurtness, but at the end of the day, if you have a problem player, you have to spearhead that problem. You have to address it.
Okay. All right. I mean, yeah. No, I agree. Bruce, you want to add anything into this, or is it all basically?
Not really. Like whenever I have a real problem with a DM or with a player in my game, I always try to make like amends and like try to get the Detrius out from between us and be like, okay, we got to talk. Because there's problems between you and the group and the problem between you and me, and I don't want that. So I just try to go and I try to get it hewed out with them as quickly as I can.
That makes sense.
Like the one thing, just to satiate myself, like about every 5 or 4 levels, I like to get my players to give me a copy of their character sheet so I can see what the hell's going on there.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's just a thought. What was the other question you had there? My brain jumped off at about 7 different locations.
Oh, does any of you guys have questions? Questions you want the panel to answer?
They want to talk about cigars or craft. You would like to take this moment aside and talk about Brickhouse cigars.
Oh, I know that was me asking Crafty just what his opinion on was about cigars. Just a side conversation. Now I will talk about cigars, but considering I'm the only person here, other than maybe Shadow, every so often that will smoke a cigar, there's that conversation is almost a no-go because I'll end up just talking to myself. No offense to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do any of you guys, I guess, variation? Okay. Do any of you guys run out of IPs, or is it all homegrown stuff? Or from? I know you run from Frog Gods.
Yep.
As of right now.
Yep.
Do you ever, as you're running your campaign or it being homebrew, do you ever look at other additions or for other hooks that other systems might have thrown into their modules to add to yours? Or do you just try to keep the hard line, no, this is what I'm going to do, and I don't know. Yeah, don't look at other
be a hardliner. That way you can keep momentum going with your game. I'll just say that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What about you there? Go first, Shadow.
You know, yeah, everybody should know me by now. I'm not only am I a control freak, but I love the power of being God. I don't mean that to sound as awful as it does, but for me, the absolute joy of being a dungeon master, especially after 40 plus years of doing it, there's absolutely almost no reason other than playing certain games like Mutant Chronicles or a game that is specifically set, that's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's specifically set in someone else's world. If I'm running Star Wars, for example, well, I can make Star Wars my own, but it's still Star Wars. Mutant Chronicles, that's not my world. I'm playing and running somebody else's creation. And mind you, I don't do that often. It's probably been 30 years since I've done that. Someday I will, I really hope, but probably not. Being a dungeon master is all about the creativity of doing everything that we were just talking about, the world building and every little detail. It's all on me. Otherwise, I'd rather be a player. Then everything's, brand new and I don't know what's going to happen next. It's like when you get a brand new video game, you have no idea what to expect. That's what I expect out of being a player. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to know. I like guessing and being right, but I don't want to know. As a dungeon master, it's the exact opposite. I want to know everything when it's important. I don't need to stuff my head full of facts and numbers and crap that my players will completely avoid if they find out that I put that into my head. I don't want to give them any clues that hey, I just read this book on dragons and now they're going to avoid everything with scales for the next 6 months because I just got a new book on dragons. But for me, it as a dungeon master, it's all about creating and making my own Star Wars or making my own Middle Earth or whatever game it is. That way, everything good and bad is on me. I can't fall back and go, oh, this was a crappy dungeon. Sorry, guys. I bought a module and I thought it'd be fun. We got there, but then, crap happened and it wasn't as good as we all thought. This way, everything's on me. It's, that's why I don't use random tables of almost any kind. I almost don't even need to roll dice anymore. I've learned from so many game systems and literally played games that don't actually use dice, like Amber. There's no dice. Your character sheet, the dice are your character sheet. And the same with most games. The only dice that I need are from the players, reacting, making saving throws, rolling to hit. And to be honest, the more I play and the more I watch on YouTube, the less of that I actually want to see. If the players want to do something, like a skill, basically something that requires a skill check, I'd rather they just say they do it and succeed than waste time in the actual process of looking up the numbers, what are the percentages, etc. Your character should have been doing whatever they're doing for a long enough time to know that they're going to succeed, like tying their shoes. If it's something really hairball and crazy and, some sort of cockamamie scheme, then yeah, dice, absolutely. I mean, that's what they're there for. But the less of it, the more I like it. We were playing in Bruce's game the other day. I rolled a 2 and I hit on a 20-sided die. To me, that blew me away. How do I hit? How can I hit? I rolled a 2. Oh, because I have all these other numbers. And mind you, I'm not super high level. And, in almost every other game I could think of, a 2 would have been a horrible miss. But a 2 I hit. I'm like, you're kidding me. So basically, if I get to die on the table, I hit. And trust me, you're playing with my son, there's a 50-50 chance he's going to miss every die roll because he's going to miss it on the table. But that's an inside joke. He needs a dice tray. But, that to me, that just reinforces after a certain point, you don't even need dice anymore because you're going to hit. I mean, unless you're going toe-to-toe with, someone who's, popped out of a mirror of opposition and you're fighting your double, I know I'd get a rise out of you there, Jade. Why am I even rolling dice? I hit. I hit. It's just an orc. Why am I rolling? I get 3 attacks. Can I just roll damage? Because, I get the critical hit thing, but even then, it seems like you kind of need a higher number to confirm the crit than you did to get the crit sometimes, or vice versa. So one of these days, like I was telling Shauner, there's going to be a great game that's going to come along. Everybody's going to love it all across the planet. Everybody's going to be playing it, and it's going to come with a bag of dice, and it's going to be 2 coins. Flip heads or tails. Heads you hit, tails you miss. That's it. It's getting to that point where dice are becoming less and less of a factor because of the desire of players to never fail at whatever it is they're doing, especially games like Traveler. If you roll up a character that's been doing the same job for 40 plus years, you need to be under incredibly extreme duress before you would fail on your average die roll tasks.
Now, Bruce, you did the I'm crossing my fingers stance. You got something you wish to say?
Whenever the players go off script, it's a green light for you to go off script too. It's a green light for you to take some notes as to what you've talked about in the campaign so far, and for you to sally forth and put them through hell. Let them choose their own destiny.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think with certain campaigns, certain storylines, whatever, a flipping coin, yes, no, would probably work very well. So that's definitely a thought, But once again, I don't know. I'm kind of lost in that thought. I have to circle back to it and talk to you about that at a later date there, Shadow.
No worries, just an observation.
No, it's fine. Now, there being an old module that's out of print or hasn't seen reprint, they just haven't reprinted yet, and you get your hands on it, but you're not 100% sure how to run it because it's it's out of a system that you haven't run yet. Do you go and ask somebody who has run it, or do you try to figure it out for yourself? Now, I'm using Tome of Terror or Tomes of Terror as my example. I've heard about it over the years how no matter what, the player's fucked.
You mean Tomb of Horrors?
Yeah, that's it. I'm sorry. I could picture the goat head looking guy, but that's about as far as the title I can remember. Do you go?
That was a tournament designed game to basically, be played for a prize. Oh. Its earliest incarnation was the hardest, basically the hardest tournament dungeon ever created at that time, and it was meant to pretty much kill you at every turn.
Okay.
Unless you hate your players, I would not recommend ever grabbing that.
It's the one I hear talked about the most.
Because it's every single thing about it is designed to kill you.
Okay.
And while that's fair in a lot of situations, things like that should be that way, but players are never going to ask for that. Not these days, anyways. Can you make a dungeon that'll kill us at every step of the way, and then when it works, we're not going to get all butthurt about it because everybody died? No one's going to ask for that.
Yeah.
What do you have to say, Bruce, on this topic? On that question?
Really, I think I've said everything, and plus the fact that Shadow has covered quite a few bases I want to talk about too. So, I mean, props to him.
Sorry, Rick.
You're good. You're good. I don't need to repeat it.
Okay. What about you, Jade?
Sorry, I'll need to repeat the question. Dogs were crunching bones at my feet.
Fair enough. You ever pick up a module that's from an older edition that you've never ran before? Do you ask people that have ran it before? I use that module as we were talking about, but any module. Do you would you ask somebody who's run it before, or would you just sit down and try to figure it out for yourself?
So I've actually done this on multiple occasions. I'm actually going through an older module set right now, kind of picking it apart, seeing what's in there and how it all plays out. And for the most part, there's a lot of resources online for older content. Like if you want to run 2B, I'm sure there's probably 20,000 different forums of people who've run 2B, or even maybe the Moldve Redbox. I'm sure there's loads of older forum users who have that content. So yeah, you could go ask them. But for the most part, when I'm looking at older content, I'm looking at how it's set up, what hooks there are, where the players are supposed to get to, and all the clues they need to get to, the conclusions they need to make. I'm looking at all that stuff. I don't really care about the monsters. I don't care about the statistics or the loot tables or any of that nonsense. I just do not care. Because I'm probably going to have to reskin it into a game system that's more current, and that's not to enrage those people who played AD&D or original D&D or any of that. That's because the players that I have at my disposal, or people who are willing to sit at my table, don't want to run OD&D. They don't understand THACO. They don't want to understand THACO. Or they don't want to play D&D. They want to play Palladium or whatever the case might be. So do I use old content? The answer is yes. Do I reskin my content or that old content into the system that people want to play? Yes. Now, that is where my questions derive at. Like, if I don't know the system, if I don't know the actual engine that people want to use, I then start asking questions. Hey, I'll read the engine first, make the determinations of, hey, I don't fully understand this ruling or this mechanic. Can you explain it? And I'll go to the people who actually want to play the game. And if they don't understand the mechanic, I then ask, why do you want this engine run? But then if they can't answer that, I'll go to online forums and look up the mechanics or whatnot that I need. So yes, I absolutely do use old content, especially content people, in my circles or the newer people to my circles have never played. Like, I can probably count on one finger in my current group or circle of players. I can count on one finger, one person, just one, who may have run some of the old content, but not when it was relevant. Just one person. So I can pull all of those resources, and the players will likely have never run any of it ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I'm fairly certain none of my circle of friends or current circle of players or friends have run 2B. I'm sure they've never even heard of it.
You mean keep it on the Borderlands?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not the 4E keep on the Shadowfell. No, I'm talking about 2B original.
It's usually B2. That's what was throwing me.
Or I'm sorry, yeah, B2. My bad. Not 2B.
No worries. It's like,
What
there's a whole other set of modules I don't know about. No.
I must be
that,
thinking Shakespeare.
Yeah, you got me. I got me thinking that too for a second. I'm like, no. He's got to be keep on the board.
Whether it is nobler to, I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah, that's the module. I've got like 4 copies of that module, and I hope to God to never ever run it, play it, or see it again until I'm really, really old and need some money, and I start selling off all my duplicates, because seriously, I've been in that as a player and a dungeon master probably about 20 times combined.
Yeah, so you knew what I meant. I bet I misspoke.
Yeah, I won't even watch videos on it anymore.
No.
I think the last one I watched was Professor Dungeon Master, who I no longer watch, but that's a totally different story.
All right. Let's see.
What do you mean, all right?
What do I mean? All right.
Yep.
Meaning
You're asking for another question.
yes. Realistically, yeah. So, is there?
Did you want to add something, Bruce?
No, go ahead. I was waiting for him to say something.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right wordage. Now, let's say you do have a group of players that want to hit the old time machine and go back to basic D&D, first edition, but you are not 100% sure how to see. The problem I'm having with this question is everything, all the answers are more or less the same, and it has nothing against you guys, but YouTube is the answer. You can find somebody who talks about it on YouTube. So asking older DMs is not really a thing anymore. It's just go find a channel that's talking about it. With that being said, that being a question, would you prefer to sit down with an older DM and talk about a system that you're not sure about, or would you rather just watch somebody that you don't know talk about it on YouTube?
The acquaintance. There we go.
I'm sorry, Bruce. What was that?
I go with the acquaintance that I already have an established an investment with.
Yeah,
I would go with a friend, even if they have a wrong opinion. I'd rather go with them because they probably have something that they can add to whatever we're doing.
All right. Now, what about you, Shadow? I mean, granted, you've seen it all and done it all. I mean, gaming.
There's a couple of things. There's a couple of things I would still want to do, but if I had my choice, there are some YouTubers I would like to get to know better and talk about said things. I can think of about a half a dozen right now that I would love to reminisce with, but even if I couldn't do it in person, GM Fritz and DM James, two great guys that I really hope I get to meet someday. Just because we grew up doing so much of the same stuff, but in completely different parts of the world. I could actually see, having conversations with people like that about even Keep on the Borderlands, and it would be a treat. But if I was trying to run, like, say, for example, Rules Cyclopedia, a game I never actually played or ran. I own the book, but I have no experience with it at all. I started reading it, then I remembered, oh yeah, racist class, and then I put it down. I would love to, pick somebody's brain as to why it was so popular when that would have been, for my group, that would have been such a huge obstacle. We would have just said, nah, we wasted our money on that box set or book or whatever at the time. Let's move on. There are people out there that I would like to, speak with, but with the way the world is now, getting to speak with some people in person, may never happen. So you got to go with what's feasible and possible. And I met all you guys online. One of these days, we will get to meet in person, and that's going to be a totally different experience. As much as we think we know each other in person, everything's different, and it's always going to be preferable. I hope. I hope society doesn't get to the point where, completely off topic today. Someone was talking about, how people would rather be, text than actually receive a phone call. And phone calls are now, intrusive and aggressive, and all these other weak ass, concepts thrown behind them now. You want to call me? Here's my number. Call me. I might answer the phone. I might not, but I'm not going to go, oh my God, why are you interrupting my life with your own petty concerns? And that's the way, society's getting, it seems. And thankfully, I don't have a whole lot longer to hang out here to put up with some of that crap, unless they force me into some cyborg suit or some shit. So, maybe 20 years. And,
Shadow's brain in this jaw. Shadow's brain in this jaw, and he will be running this game for you every Thursday. And on Tuesday, he does important questions. So you may go to the Oracle, and the brain will bubble up, and he will answer you.
I was actually just thinking of Futurama in the head jars. So, yeah. What about you, Jade?
What was the question again?
Would you rather get information on a system that you're 100% not 100% sure on from somebody you know, or would you rather go to the vast world of YouTube and hear somebody else's opinion?
First things first, I open up the book to the first few pages. Like if I just went and grabbed a random book off the shelf, I could just open to like the first 10 to 15 pages, and I'm going to read the core mechanics. Step 1, read a summary of how the game works. Step 2, I'm going to go to the game master section. If I'm the one running it, I'm going to go to the game mastering section and read through all of the content there. I'm going to understand what it takes to actually run the system. If I'm a player, I'm going to go to the player section, the classes, the races, what have you. The player options, and I'm going to read through some of those. Maybe not all of it. I'm not going to commit everything to memory. I'm just going to get a general feel of the system itself. Now, if I still have questions after that, because I'm not going to bother with the magic system at that point. I never play casters in a game to start with. I always feel out like fighters, rangers, whatever would pass for that. But if I still have questions after that, yeah, I'm going to ask someone who is more intimate with the system or the engine about it. So me specifically, I hate phone calls. I hate text messages. I want to have an actual conversation with a living human being. I don't want to be on the phone. I don't want to be in text groups. I don't want to be on forums. I don't want it to be, any part of that. I want a living person that I can interact with to talk about things. Now, what we're doing here, this panel discussion and being able to actually see and interact with each of you, I find that acceptable more so than a phone call. Now, I will take a phone call. I will answer the phone and I will talk on the phone with people. But my preferred method of conversation is in person, because I think I can have a better exchange of ideas with the person in front of me than on the phone, because I can see their reactions. I can see, their eyes light up when they're really passionate about something. I can't see them on the phone unless it's like those video chats or whatever, or like this. But I always start with the book first. I always read through the summary, and then I read into the rules of the Game Master and player section. After which, again, if I have questions, I find the person who brought it up to me, who presented me the engine, and be like, okay, I have questions, please answer. And if they can't, then I go to online. Because the entire mind of human beings is now online. Like, it's just the internet of everything. Everything is out there. You just have to be able to find it. And there are keywords I can use to find things. There are search methods I know that I can find specific answers to things. My wife is actually better at it than I am. So if I really have a problem finding something, I'll go find her and be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to find. Can you give me better search terms? But no, I always prefer in-person conversations if I've got questions.
Yeah. That's fair. We're on the last basically 15 minutes of the show. So with that being said, I think this will be my last question. Then I'll ask you what you guys got going on this week. Is your original DM, the DM that you started with, do you find that you talk to them more about game theory, game DMing than newer people, or do you look out for newer people because you know they're that person's opinion on most things?
I'll just say, like, the Legion of Myth Discord that we're part of. Thank you, Max, for making that. There's a lot of people in there that are both sides of the screen type people.
Right.
And so if you put a question in there under the appropriate channel, if you talk to people about Pathfinder, you put it in Pathfinder. If you want to talk to people about OSR, you put it in OSR. If you're a 5e guy, you ask them 5e questions. And
you get
people
shunned
will
from the
answer
room.
you back. Say again?
You get shunned from the room.
Well, I mean, we just shun anyway. I mean, shun, Charlie, shun. But you place it. Placement is everything. And within a day, you can expect 3 generally good responses. Maybe not the answer you're looking for. And if there's a certain member there, she'll post walls of text if it pertains to anything remotely close to your game. And she'll come up with an answer that you probably don't want the book answer to. And she will lay out pages of it. But she'll give you facts and she'll give you chapter and verse. And so I go to that resource first, and I don't know everybody there, but I'm getting to know the people there, and that's pretty all right. And then the other place I like to go is over to DM James's channel, his Discord, because he's got a thriving little community of people that aren't on the Legion of Myth channel. They're not involved with a lot of other people we know, and so I can get 2 different communities to talk to me about an issue or question, and I'll get usually parallel answers. They're not the same, but they'll give me something to chew on. And I got to be really happy that I have that ability to get an answer back with usually about 8 hours. I can get it.
Okay. Shadow, do you go after hearing the question? What kind of answer do you have for us?
I haven't spoken to my original Dungeon Master in decades. If I ever speak to him again, it won't be with my actual vocal cords. It'll be with something else. It has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons whatsoever. And since then, I've only had a handful of Dungeon Masters. Some I wish I could reach out and chat with. Unfortunately, some are no longer with us. Some are diametrically opposed to everything I think and breathe. Therefore, I wouldn't have anything to do with them. There are a few I would jump for joy at the opportunity to speak with, but it probably wouldn't be for gaming. And other than that, I've been, the eternal Dungeon Master for far too long, and I really don't. I get you guys when I have questions, and it only questions on new stuff, not the old stuff. So I'm kind of, that's why I'm, dipping my toe into other games because, there comes a point, where being the Eternal Dungeon Master is not all peaches and cream, and seeing how the other half lives has been kind of enjoyable. Thank you, Bruce. I look forward to the next game every morning. I wake up. Is it Saturday? Nope. Still got another 13 and a half days to go. But that was Monday, or Sunday or whatever. Yeah, I know we've got less than 13 days, but
We're less than 10 days now.
yeah, I know. I can do math. I was just, when I woke up the next day, that is exactly what I thought. It's like, damn, still got so far away. But that's okay. That is a good thing. Playing every day, like in the old days. Well, back then it was a lot of fun. Now it's just, it seems ridiculous. I can't believe I spent literally years of my life playing every day after work for years and years and years in the same campaign, but no regrets.
All right, Jade, what about you? Do you go, well, you already basically have in a roundabout way. Do you go back to your original DM and ask him questions that you have questions on? I mean, like I said, you more or less said you have.
Yeah, so I do go back to Reese on occasion. Reese is my Reese is the moniker he earned from the same game that I earned Jade. We were both playing those characters in the game. He was a game master who was playing a character when I was game mastering. His character was in the story, and my character was in the story, even though we were both game masters of the same game. So I do talk to him on occasion. I probably should reach out to him more. But it's mostly I ask him questions about lore and stuff from his part of the world, because he's thought through most of that stuff on that part of the world, and he'll ask me occasionally questions like, "Hey, I'm gonna be visiting your main city. Can you tell me a little bit about the stuff that's happening during this timeline of events?" And then I can say, "Yeah, I've got those notes somewhere," and I can present him those notes. Recently, he's actually reached out to me and asked me for like all my Bronze Age stuff because I'm working on the Bronze Age setting of the game of that same world, and he wanted to make sure that he was kind of incorporating some of that lore, even though it's like 13,000 years before the events transpire in his game, or maybe even longer before that. But he wants to, include some of those unique places that won't necessarily have eroded away after 13,000 years. So,
All right. Well, that basically answers all the questions I have. I am sorry today is a little bit haphazardly when it comes to the conversation today.
We literally decided this topic like 30, 40 minutes before we decided to stream.
I'm going to quote a line from one of my favorite movies. It was supposed to be My Day Off. But that being said, what do you got going on this week, Bruce?
Tomorrow night we're going to be running more of a deep dive into what exactly are your options if you're still sitting at the table, if your players don't leave, if you guys are like, I don't want to go do the Pretty Princess adventure, and you're staring at your party and you're starting to mentally separate. You're starting to get like, man, I really don't know if I want to play with this group anymore. And I'm going to throw some anecdotes and some stories about games and campaigns I've ran where things have just hit like absolute rock bottom. And I mean, I'm gonna probably do some video that I've got from the old game room in Washington. I'm gonna probably do, yeah. I've got to reference that because that's like one of those moments where like you don't really want to have this happen at your table.
I'm
So
just going to apologize now.
I found it was funny at the time, and I still find it funny. But it's like, damn it had to happen during our game, really?
Hey,
But
I got
mean,
rid
they
of
had
some
been
dead
building
weight.
for several months.
I mean, I got rid of some dead weight. That's all I have to say.
fair enough. Hey, Max, have a good night, buddy. We will see you tomorrow. That's the main thing. Then Friday, I believe I'm releasing a video on Friday. I'm doing what Vavasar is doing. He recorded a video tonight. His video is on we need a competitor to step up and kind of give competition to drive through RPG. And my video will be nothing like that. My video will be the final bits of me reading this because I'm tired of this half-ass unfinished playlist on my videos. I need to finish it up and get going.
All right. What about you, Shadow?
Okay, let's see. Busy week as always. Today's Wednesday. Just finished part 2 of our Gamma World review, that being Gamma World Second Edition. Tomorrow's Thursday. We have a craft video of going to be making some sort of Roman terrain piece for gaming, even though we absolutely have no Roman games going on at the moment. But it was little guy's idea. But that's cool. It's his birthday month. I'm gonna let him, take the reins of all the craft videos this month. That's his thing. Then Friday, either gonna take the day off or do another Arduin review. Thinking probably Arduin. That's one of the few game worlds I actually really do love, because it gave me so much back when I was just a wee lad, knee high to a grasshopper in the gaming shops I worked in. It gave me the edge over all the older players out there that were, shelling down their money to have me as their dungeon master, and it got me through some hard times. And like I said, it's given so much back to me. So I'll be working on Arduin as long as they'll have me working with them. Then of course, skip Thursday. Hopefully I'll be hanging out with you guys again tomorrow night. I've got some questions after the show if you guys don't mind. And then Friday, Arduin. Saturday, don't tell anybody, it's the little guy's birthday, big 14. And so we've got all kinds of plans for that. Might squeak in another shadow chat session. We had a 4-hour stream last night. I don't know if anybody caught that besides Baron, who abruptly hit the high road when the little guy started spewing politics. But it was a lot of fun. We were up till 2 in the morning, and that was absolutely a lot of fun. We got to do more of those. And then Sunday, hanging out with Connell, doing Dresden book 2, the last couple of chapters, and then the beginnings and hopefully the end of Grave Peril. Still hasn't arrived, so we're gonna have to do the audiobook versions.
Look at this guy. That guy right there.
You have my full undivided attention.
So we'll be seeing Jade this Sunday. All right.
And then after that on Sunday, little guy and I will be painting up. Can you give me a full size screen here?
Yeah.
This wonderful alien dragon from Archon Studio.
Oh God.
Not one, but 2. It's literally called the Xeno Dragon, and we're putting together the second one tonight. Little guy put this together on the stream last night. Rawr. And we will both be painting these up. He'll be painting one, I'll be painting the other. We have different paint schemes in mind, and we've already painted 2 of these dragons before, but that was over a year ago, and the little guy really wants to see how his painting skills have changed since then. But if you are interested in one of these, they're available Archon Studio for about $20-30. It is a model kit that you have to put together, but it is an absolutely horrific and beautiful at the same time dragon model that we love this model so much. We bought 4 of them from the Kickstarter, and we'll be painting the base coats Sunday and then on to another week.
Man, I'm sorry, but that's just nightmare fuel right there. I already have a love-hate relationship with those movies as is. I don't know if you're fully aware, but that was the first movie I saw as a kid. I remember seeing it in at drive-through. Ah, man! But as a dragon, that's nightmare fuel. Anyways, what about you there, Jade? What do you got going on?
Let's see here. This weekend, I am currently working on campaign stuff.
Ooh.
I'm hoping to get some of my campaign notes finalized, maps and whatnot drawn out. I've been turning that hex map I was working on last week into an actual drawn map. That's what I've been, head down into this evening. Let's see here. I'm hoping to be able to hit record on some videos. Again, I'm having trouble with the whole talking to the camera thing because, as I've expressed, I don't like talking to nothing. I like talking to people, but I'm not going to rope my wife into it.
Talk to me, man.
I asked, huh?
Just talk to me, man. Just pretend it's me, or hook something up. And, I'll give you my phone number. I'll call you, and you can just tell me over the phone with the mic on.
Yeah, no. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna rope my wife into it because she puts up with enough of my shenanigans as it is.
Shenanigans.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you a shirt with that.
And she hears about my game notes and stuff and my prep and whatnot. So that's one less thing I can put her through, so to say.
Hey, you know what, dude? Consider yourself lucky, okay? Seriously.
Well,
women like that are not easy to find. I know. I'm still looking.
They're not, and that's the other reason why I'm not going to put her through it because, well, I already put her through enough shenanigans. So yeah, no. Hopefully I can hit record button, and actually focus in on things. I do have a few pieces of content that I've got cooking around in the brain, but they're not quite well polished, and I'm afraid of going too far off my own topics because, well, we obviously can't stay on a topic in just general discussion. But once I do, malarkey, okay. Once I do actually start hitting record, I'm hoping that my videos are 10 to 15, maybe 20 minutes long, and I can start putting those out to YouTube, maybe once a week, maybe once every other week, as time allows. I do work a 40-hour job a week, and right now I'm in the overtime season where product has to get done and the product has to go through me to get built. So yeah, as time allows.
Try to do 2 in one day if you can, and then just schedule one. That way you have one every week. If that works out for you. Trust me, the more videos you put out, the more people will remember you. Otherwise, I watch YouTube 16 hours a day, and there are so many people I'm behind on.
Oh my God, I couldn't do 14. No.
Well, I listen.
No, I can't even do that. Anyways, granted, I watch your guys' videos. There's a lot of people in chat. I watch their videos. I watch yours, of course, Shadow, and I watch Bruce's. I will sometimes argue with Bruce, but he doesn't hear it, so no feelings are hurt.
I'm here reading.
What?
I'm here reading. Go ahead.
No, I'm just that's why you're my friend. We can argue. You just not necessarily have to be there. So what do I got going on? All right. So Thursday, Table Breakers. As Bruce said, we'll be talking about what we'll be talking about. Oh man, my brain is shutting down. Holy crap!
When the table goes wrong.
Well, the table goes wrong.
Yeah, when things go wrong.
Yeah. Then Friday night, most likely hanging out with Max on the chill. Saturday, we'll be doing part B of talking RPG with the vet. I'll be a second part with Derek. We're going to be talking about a few other gaming things that he's into and how it's helped him since he's been out of the service. Sunday, we will be talking about Dresden Files. We'll be wrapping up the second part of Fool's Moon and starting on Grave Peril. If you're not aware of the Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, they are worth reading at least once. Especially if you know the Chicago area. It's kind of fun. That will be
Chicago area?
What? The Chicago area. It is. Chicago is fun. It's a great place to visit. I just wouldn't want to live there again. Anyway, especially during the winter months. Fuck Mav. With that being said, I want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July because that's this coming Monday. What do you got there?
I do have one thing. And I talk to other people online occasionally and whatnot. As a matter of fact, I'm talking with someone who was just in chat privately, and they brought up a good point. If you, the viewers, have a question you would like answered or deep dived upon by game masters or be it the table breakers or gatekeepers, either one, you can find our Discord. If the public link to the Discord, or even on this video of Connell's, and post a question there. If you really want to have certain questions answered, we'll give it a deep dive. We'll give it a think and come up with something for it. Without the comment section and viewers, we would just be talking to dead air. So you the viewers. If you got questions, we might have answers. They may not always be the answers you're looking for. They might be. So please, generate some questions. Pick our brains about things. That's part of what we do.
Well, with that being said, like I said, have a safe 4th of July. I didn't want to hear about anybody blowing off their pecker while lighting off a firecracker.
Oh, no. Please bring video if you do that.
Yes. And don't be the guy on the late night with Jay Leno back in the day that lights a bottle rocket, went up one side of his pants and down the other side of his pants without hitting anything. If that does happen to you, I got questions. So many questions. With that,
before we go, guys, if you guys ever have like an old school question, my door's always open. Simple as that.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
All right. So with that being said, you all have a safe 4th of July. We're trying to remember what this country was founded on, the reason why we're all here. And that's about enough of that political side as I'm going to speak of tonight. With that being said, roll your dice in the dark. Make sure you do your character sheet in Quran because it's a 4th of July. Use red, white, and blue. I don't know
Happy Fireworks Day.
Have a good one.
Bye, everybody.